After the fall of the Ottoman Empire, Muslims from across the world were still aching from the loss of the Khilafah and the last united Islamic empire, which represented the Muslims around the globe, leading to a score of reformers, revolutionaries, writers, poets, and philosophers emphasizing Islamic revivalism. Amongst them was Hassan al-Banna, who firmly opposed westernization and planned to reinstitute Muslim laws and morality in the Muslim society. Hassan al-Banna established the Muslim Brotherhood in 1928, calling for the institution of an Islamic state with the Caliph as its leader and the Quran as the basis of its law. The Brotherhood spread rapidly throughout Egypt, Sudan, Syria, Palestine, Lebanon, and North Africa. As the Muslim Brotherhood grasped power in Egypt for just a year, the group was subject to a coup d'etat as the military seized control once again and ruptured any prospect of a rise, while neighboring monarchs have cracked down on its followers. One of the largest Islamic organizations in the world faces a highly daunting task of reaching the top once again. Why were the people from educated class and intellectuals fascinated and intrigued by the Muslim Brotherhood? Do the ideas of the Muslim Brotherhood advocate terror? Who are the Muslim Brotherhood?
The Muslim Brotherhood, founded in 1928 by Hassan al-Banna, its objective is to transform Egypt into a society with Islamic laws, values, and morals. It has long combined preaching and political activism with social welfare to advance this objective. The group earned legitimacy among its core constituency, the lower middle class, as the most effective organized resistance against the British occupation of Egypt. Branches were set up throughout the country by the Muslim Brotherhood, each running a mosque, a school, and a sporting club, as its membership grew to 500,000 members by the late 1940s. At the same time, Banna created a paramilitary wing, the Special Apparatus, whose operatives joined the fight against British rule and engaged in a campaign of bombings and assassinations. The group was accused of assassinating Prime Minister Mahmoud al-Nukrashi. Following this incident, Banna was subsequently shot dead by an unknown gunman.
The ideology of the Muslim Brotherhood focuses on reforming the existing political systems in the Arab world. It embraces the idea of political activism and social responsibility, organizing charitable works and social support programs as part of its outreach to its core support base of lower-income populations. They have always adhered to their ideal of a society governed by Islamic laws and morals throughout their history.
In 1952, the colonial rule ended following a military coup led by a group of young officers calling themselves the Free Officers. After a failed attempt to assassinate Egyptian President Gamal Abdel Nasser in Alexandria on October 26, 1954, members of the Muslim Brotherhood were suppressed and tortured. Thousands of its members were taken captive and 6 of its leaders were tried and executed for treason. This clash with the authorities prompted a significant shift in the ideology of the Muslim Brotherhood, evident in the writing of one of its most prominent members, Sayyid Qutb. Qutb's work advocated the use of jihad, struggle against ignorant societies, both Western and so-called Islamic ones, which he argued needed transformation. In 1965, when Nasser was still president, thousands of Muslim Brotherhood members were rounded up and accused of attempting to revive the group. The crackdown ended with the execution of several of the group's leading members, including celebrated author and intellectual Sayyid Qutb.
During the 1980s, the Muslim Brotherhood attempted to rejoin the political mainstream. Successive leaders formed alliances with the Wafd Party in 1984 and with the Socialist Liberals Party and Socialist Labour Party in 1987, becoming the main opposition force in Egypt. In 2000, the Muslim Brotherhood won 17 seats in the lower house of parliament, the People's Assembly. 5 years later, the group achieved its best election result up to then, with independent candidates allied to it winning 20% of the seats. President Hosni Mubarak was shocked by these results and subsequently launched a crackdown on the group, detaining hundreds of members and instituted a number of legal reforms to counter their resurgence. The constitution was rewritten, specifying that political activity or political party shall not be based on any religious background or foundation. Independent candidates were banned from running for president, and anti-terrorism legislation that gave the security forces sweeping powers to detain suspects and restrict public gatherings was introduced.
At the beginning of 2011, the people of Egypt glimmered with hope as the prospect of being a democratic country was close to being a reality after the rise of Arab Spring revolts stroked Arab nationalism across the region. The Muslim Brotherhood won a plurality in Egypt's first free parliamentary election, and a senior figure in the group, Mohamed Morsi, won Egypt's first free presidential election after the ouster of President Hosni Mubarak in 2011. As millions of protesters marched in the streets, the Supreme Council of the Armed Forces issued an ultimatum to Morsi, giving him 48 hours to meet their demands. On July 3, 2013, the Supreme Council of Armed Forces, led by Defense Minister Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, ousted Morsi and suspended the new constitution. The following month, security forces responded harshly to sit-ins protesting the coup, killing more than 1,150 demonstrators, Human Rights Watch found. The main encampment, Rabah al-Adawiya Square, became a rallying cry for opposition to the new regime. Under Sisi's rule, the government has outlawed and forced the Muslim Brotherhood once again. Thousands of the group's leaders and members have been taken captive, and others went into exile. The group's charities have been closed and their assets confiscated. Former President Morsi, who had been on trial ever since his ouster, died in June 2019 after being denied medical care while held in solitary confinement. Under Sisi, civilian institutions such as the judiciary, the legislature, and the auditing authority have lost their independence. Military control has distorted the economic policy of the country. Not enough attention has been paid to the basic needs of people, while there has been a spending spree on arms.
The Western countries claiming to pattern democracy turned their backs on the democratically elected government and supported military dictatorship for the people of Egypt. What does the future hold for Egypt? Can the people of Egypt ever dream of a democratic country?